For years, the United States and Syria have had a complicated relationship, sometimes cold, sometimes fiery, and occasionally surprising. But recently, something huge happened. The United States, under Donald Trump, decided to lift its long-standing ban on Syria.
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Why did the ban exist in the first place? What changed? And how could this move affect the world? Let's break it all down. The story begins back in 1940s, right after Syria became independent from France. From the very start, Syria was caught up in the region's conflicts, especially those involving Israel. While the US supported Israel, Syria leaned toward the Soviet Union. This put both countries on opposite sides during the Cold War. Then came Hafez al-Assad, Syria's longtime president. Under his rule, Syria became known for its tough stance against the West.
The United States has openly declared that it will continue provision of weapons and other materials to the terrorist groups. We believe
in 1979, the US officially labeled Syria as a state sponsor of terrorism for supporting groups like Hezbollah.
When in fact they're a state sponsor of terror, when in fact they're helping expedite, or at least not stopping, the movement of foreign fighters from Syria into Iraq.
Still, the US and Syria did work together at times, like during the Gulf War in the early 90s, when both fought against Saddam Hussein.
بدلالة المادة 24 من قانون المحكمة الجنائية العراقية العليا رقم 10 لسنة 2005 قراراً حضورياً وبالاتفاق.
Fast forward to the 2000s, Bashar al-Assad took over after his father died. Hopes were high, but things quickly went downhill.
Bashar al-Assad inherited the regime when his father Hafez died in 2000. After he buried Hafez al-Assad, Syrians hoped Bashar, trained as a doctor in London, would reform and modernize the country. So did Tony Blair and other.
The US accused Syria of supporting insurgents during the Iraq War. Then in 2011, Syria cracked down on peaceful protesters, and everything changed. The protests turned into bloody civil wars. The Assad regime was accused of horrific human rights abuses, torture, bombing hospitals, and even using chemical weapons.
Now, a Syrian opposition group is saying that security forces have killed at least 30 protesters this Tuesday, mostly in Idlib province. Video posted online appears to show a rally there. And activists are saying that indiscriminate killings triggered a deadly strike against a government convoy. We're told army defectors ambushed a security patrol, killing 7 members.
That's when the US brought out the big guns, sanctions. Sanctions are like a freeze button. They block a country from doing businesses, moving money, or working with international companies. One of the strongest tools used was the Caesar Act, passed in 2019. It didn't just target Syria, it also scared off any company or country thinking of doing business with Syria. The goal was to pressure Assad to stop violence and give up power. But who suffered the most? The people. Syrian economy crumbled. Their currency became almost worthless. Prices soared. Hospitals lacked basic supplies. Millions were left jobless, homeless, and hopeless. Even though the US allowed humanitarian aid, many organizations were too scared to get involved, worried they might accidentally break the rules. And while the US hoped to weaken Assad, the sanctions pushed Syria closer to Iran and Russia, two countries happy to expand their influence in the Middle East. Now here's where it gets interesting. In 2025, President Donald Trump shocked the world by announcing that the US will lift its sanctions on Syria.
Likewise in Syria, which has seen so much misery and death, there is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. That's what we want to see in Syria. They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
Why the change? A new interim president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, took over and quickly changed course. He promised peace with Israel, he joined the Abraham Accords, and he cut ties with Iran-backed militias. In other words, Syria was finally playing nice with the West.
Of change and development, a government that bears responsibility of the people's hopes and aspirations for a bright and sustainable future. We believe that hard and loyal work, as well as cooperation among the people, will be key to achieving these goals.
But lifting a ban like this isn't as simple as flipping a switch. In the US sanctions, they are either put in place by the president through something called an executive order, or by Congress through a law. The Caesar Act was one of those laws. So here's how lifting the ban should work, step by step. Number one, President Trump make the announcement, which he had already made. Then the State and Treasury Department will review Syria's action to see if the reasons for sanctions were gone. Congress will be consulted because you can't ignore laws made by the lawmakers. The Office of Foreign Assets Control, known as OFAC, will update its rules so businesses will know what's allowed again. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let us know, do you think lifting the sanctions on Syria was the right move? Let's talk about it in the comment section.